What you're looking for, you can find it here on the whole TV. What you're looking for, whoa, welcome to the whole TV. What you're looking for, you can find it here on the whole TV. What you're looking for, what you're looking for, you can find it here on the whole TV. What you're looking for, whoa, welcome to the whole TV.
Set up free, y'all. Set up free, y'all. Set up free, y'all. Yes, I am. Set up free, y'all. Set up free, y'all. Set up free, y'all. Ooh. Yes, I am.
Hey, family. God has protected us and kept us another week, and we are so grateful. Yes, it's Pastor Jen again and Pastor Sharice Cross, and we're filling in for our senior pastor, Dr. E. Dewey Smith Jr. So you already know what I need y'all to do one more time. Please show some love in the comments for our senior pastor and our media team. Again, we are grateful and thankful to have this conversation with you. This week, we're celebrating so many amazing ministry opportunities. Not only did we have an incredible Wednesday in the Word last week, we want to shout out everyone who tuned in with us and who came in support of our Wednesday in the Word last week, but we're coming back again tonight. Yes, we're coming back again tonight. Put tonight in the comments. Our Wednesday in the Word is on tonight at 7 o'clock with Pastor Keon Henderson, who is one of the most influential preaching voices in our country, and he will be sharing with us. Listen, y'all, it's going to be powerful. In addition, we've already started our Lenten fast at the beginning of this month. And so if you haven't had an opportunity to go to our website at www.hohatl.org, you can right now to find out how you can start your journey with us to commemorating and celebrating the resurrection of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, that journey to the cross and then to Christ's resurrection. We want you to go on that journey with us. And a part of that is our Lenten fast that we all share in together. Now I want to shout out our global family. You all have been with us every week, and we appreciate your gifts and your support. We have people watching right now. We see you. We see you in Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, New York, Decatur, and all the way in Dubai. We absolutely love you all, and we're glad that you're sharing with us today. If you want to follow along with us on our outlines, you can also download them at www.hohatl.org. You can download it to your social media devices, and you can look at our lesson points and objectives and our scriptures along with us. Now let's get into this conversation.
Yeah.
This is part 4 of our Hidden Figure series, and we want to continue the dialogue around critical race theory, African-American history, and African-American stories. This lesson also talks about, because we have the incredible counseling, teaching, and ministry voice of Pastor Sharice Cross with us, we're also going to discuss communal traumas caused by othering in all forms and the erasure of African-Americans within African-American societal, or rather within American societal constructs and cultures. I know that's a lot, but we just want to give you some theory to ground our conversation. Now, here are a few key terms that we're going to just hint on during our conversation. We're going to talk a little bit about racism, and we talked about the definition of racism in our lesson last week, but I just want to share that it's discrimination by an individual, community, or institution against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group. We're also going to talk a little bit about othering. which is the act of treating someone as though they are not part of a group and are different in some way. And I think we all can relate to that. We've all been othered. I know I have.
Absolutely.
Something that we didn't speak about this last week, but we talk about it a lot in a lot of my circles for school, but we talk about colorism, how people are made to feel different because they may be darker or lighter than others. Critical race theory is another topic that we will hint on. And when we talk about critical race theory, it's a set of ideas holding that racial bias is inherent in many parts of Western society. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Now, there was a question that we raised in our conversation last week that I thought was a really good question. We talked about how can you maintain your visibility? We talked about a lot of the key issues surrounding how we show up in the world. But there was one particular question that I wanted to make sure that we got to this week. And that question is simply, what can I do to fortify myself, or some healthy ways that we can respond to the cultural trauma that we experience as African Americans? And before you answer that question, I want us to be reminded on your handouts. This is already there. I'm not going to read it because you have it right in front of you. This whole lesson series is about hidden figures. And that's thinking about ways in which society has made the accomplishments and the history of African Americans invisible. And so with that context, with that umbrella, what are some tools and some healthy ways that we can respond to the cultural trauma we experience as African Americans when we are othered, when we are marginalized, when we find ourselves in those contexts where we are the hidden figures?
Such a broad way for me to answer that. It's going to be broad.
Yes.
Yeah, because it goes deep.
Yes.
And you mentioned so many areas that we can be othered. So there's a book. Our brother Rasma Manika, he wrote The Grandmother's Hand. He wrote Grandmother's Hands.
Yeah.
And I love his slant and his take on racism and cultural trauma. He really delves into there. But he also gives us another slant on inherited trauma.
Yes.
And I liked his slant on it because he deals with not only, as you mentioned last week, this is not just about Black people. I think it becomes binary.
Yes.
Where it's on black and white, but there's also Asians, there's Hispanics. Absolutely. Right? There are many of us who are experiencing this, but we keep this binary discussion going.
Yes.
But he uses a concept called white body supremacy.
Wait a minute.
I know.
Wait a minute.
I know.
Pastor Cross just said something. Help the people.
White body supremacy is how both Black and white bodies carry trauma from historical injustices such as slavery and colonization. So oftentimes we think about our bodies being traumatized, but there's also the white body that's been traumatized. It's a whole
Wow. Say a little bit more. Say a little bit more. What you were saying it, we were off camera, but you were talking about how you have to disassociate?
You have to disassociate yourself in order to colonize. There's no other way that you can colonize without disassociating. In order to go in and overtake a country, a land, a space, to harm, to kill, to destroy, there's a part of you that is disassociating. And it's also traumatizing on their end as well.
So it's multiple cultural traumas.
Multiple.
It's not just the trauma that we experience as African Americans, but as a culture.
As a culture.
Outside, cultures within cultures, cultures outside of our culture.
Can I acknowledge that another culture has trauma?
Absolutely.
That may traumatize me?
Wow.
Listen,
say that one more time.
Can I acknowledge that another culture may be traumatized that have traumatized me?
So like hurt people.
Victimized perpetrator.
Wow. Okay, so let's pause.
I know.
Victimized perpetrator?
Yes.
Define that for our audience.
Gosh.
Just kind of give some legs to that.
I wasn't even trying to go here, but here we go.
Yeah, define that for us.
If I'm a victim and I have been victimized, in order for me not to be victimized again, a way that that maladaptive behavior we talked about last week, in order for me to protect myself, I then become the perpetrator. So now I am the one who is, when the power structure, we talked about those power structures.
Yes.
When I have the power structure, I become the one who makes sure that you are now the victim and not me.
So I want to pause right there and go back to a point that Dr. Smith made in the very first week of teaching this series. I didn't know we were going to end up here, but we're here now.
We're here.
Dr. Smith, when he was introducing our series, talked about how a lot of people look at the Bible as a white man's book.
Yes. Yes.
Because it has been used to perpetuate violence.
Yes.
In some spaces. We know that that's maladaptive behavior. It's been used to oppress others, but that was never God's intent. We also talked about how there are Africans in the Bible, in the Old and New Testament. So when we talk about the de-Africanization of the Bible, Randall C. Bailey says that that's something that we as scholars, those of us who are biblicists, I'm not a biblicist, but there are biblical scholars, it's our job to do, term from last week, African American biblical hermeneutics.
Oh, yes.
To bring visibility to the African presence in the Bible. African stories, women and people of color, bringing just a sense of visibility to their stories and their voices in the Bible.
Absolutely.
That's one way that we can respond to some of this trauma being inflicted upon us, or trauma that we experience as a result of an oppressive community's trauma.
Highlighting, lifting up our stories.
Yes.
So because I have the agency to shift that narrative.
Absolutely.
So I don't have to erase it, but I can shift my perspective on that narrative.
And you said it a minute ago. I thought we were going to go here, but we can go here now. Release.
Yes.
And resistance. Can you repeat that again for the people who didn't watch last week? Shame on you. If you didn't watch last week, you missed it. But this whole thing of release and resistance, talk about that again as my response to cultural trauma, marginalization, oppression.
Yes. So as a people who have been created by God, we receive our calling from God. We receive our purpose from God as we are thrust into the various systems.
Yes.
They have a different purpose, and they have different labels, and they have different understandings of who we are.
Yes.
And over time, that starts to wear on us. It wears on our psyche, our soul. We talked about soul care last year. This wears on my psyche. It weighs on my psyche. I then start to believe maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I am too black. Maybe I am too dark. Maybe I need more degrees. Maybe, whatever it is. Maybe I'm a black woman and I'm not as smart or intelligent or attractive as my white counterpart. We start to believe those.
And I want to sit there. I want you to hold your thought because I want to come back to it. I want to sit there because I shared a personal story in my sermon about how I had a professor in my undergraduate, my graduate program, master's program, who told me your GRE scores would never be high enough to get into a PhD program. That professor also told me that because I didn't know German or Aramaic, that would stop me from qualifying to be in a program. What did I do? About 7 years later, I applied, got in on the first try to a PhD program. And so it shows that sometimes we listen to those voices.
Absolutely.
And allow them to inform how we show up.
Absolutely.
It kept me from applying. I didn't apply to any PhD programs for 7 years.
Yes.
Because I listened to what that professor said.
That's right.
And so I wonder, right here, I want to engage our audience. I wonder if there's anybody who's watching who maybe you came from a small town like me. I'm from Macon. See, Pastor Cross, she's from a larger city than me. Tell them where you're from.
San Francisco.
She's from San Francisco. I'm from Macon, Georgia. And I remember hearing so many negative things. And I'm not saying you didn't hear any of those
absolutely.
things, but I know I did. Yes. And if you're watching right now and you've heard something or you've experienced something that may have caused you to doubt who you are or who God has called you to be, I want you to share in the chat. You don't have to tell us exactly what happened, but just give us a little amen or a fire emoji to let us know that you understand what we're talking about and that you may have experienced, or maybe you know someone who's experienced something like that. Somebody said that they weren't good enough or that they would never qualify for something and it held you back. I want y'all to just kind of holler at me in the chat. Let me know if that resonates with you. I want to move on a little bit, and I want to springboard from our scripture that we've been using to ground these past 2 weeks of teaching. We're still in Exodus chapter 1, verses 15 to 22. And I want to just kind of share a little bit from that whole story. We were talking about Shiphrah and Puah, particularly in verses 20 through 22. You'll see those verses on your screen. These two women used their voices. They told the king that the Hebrew women were too vigorous and that they gave birth before the midwives could arrive. And because of that, the king really didn't have much to say for a little while. He suspended his edict for a little while. Now, in verses 20 through 22, we find out that he actually resumes the edict. But then he does something that I find to be interesting. He says, kill all the boys, but let the girls live. It is presumed that in that little gap or that pause where Shiphrah and Puah used their voices, that Moses was probably born. That's when Moses' mother, Jochebed, set him a sail on the Nile to save his life. And so the short period, scholars say that the short period in which Shiphrah and Puah may have used their voices to change the course of history, that's when Moses was born. So if they had not stood up and used their agency, we would not have Moses the deliverer and the subsequent exodus of the children of Israel out of Egypt. And so I just wanted to share that as a context, as a linchpin, as a springboard for our conversation, that there will be moments where you have to use your voice. And in doing so, you can bring change and transformation in your community. You can shift the paradigm. And so we asked this question last week, and I said we're going to come back to it next week. How do you know when it's time to stand up? King said a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. But talk to us from a clinical kind of pastoral side. When do we know it's time to speak up, to use our agency like Shiphrah and Puah?
That's so good. So it definitely depends on context.
Come on.
Depends on context.
Come on.
And there's always order. So, and when we look at Shiphrah and Puah, they were in order.
Yes, they were.
They were in order.
They were operating in their role.
First thing they did is they sought the Lord, though. They knew who they were.
Come on.
They knew who they were. They knew whose they are.
Yes.
Whose they were.
Yes.
And they knew the purpose. The purpose was not only for them, but it was for those who were coming.
Yes.
So for this child. And so we always want to speak up for injustice.
Absolutely.
Always want to speak up for injustice.
And I think that goes back to our conversation about critical race theory.
Yes.
Teaching our children about it, I think you had shared last week, it's a choice.
Yes.
But you, to a certain extent, advocated that our children need to know their history.
Absolutely.
And they need to know what types of systemic just injustices are in place to keep them in a certain position, right?
Right.
And so I appreciated that conversation. So I think as we leave this series of lessons and move into our March series, here's our empowerment for our audience. We were saying that we want us to find the courage to use our voices like Shiphrah and Puah. Of course, seek the Lord to stand against oppression, erasure, and the exploitation of marginalized communities in our world. That means that even if our children don't get that teaching of our history and our culture, I talked a little bit about Jarena Lee, Harriet Tubman, modern figures like Ava DuVernay, Simone Biles, Dr. Gina Stewart, who made history and encouraged us to be like Claudia. Look it up.
We
look
are
it up.
Claudia.
I'm not gonna get into it. We are Claudia. I'm not gonna get into it, but look it up. But these are just some ways that we can make our voices heard, like you said, in order.
Yes.
With the Lord's guidance, with the Lord's help.
Yes.
And so I want to go back to a question that we talked about. I think it was last week. We talked about on a practical level. We wanted us to go introspective and think about how have we allowed others to shape and control our narrative? And how can we be more intentional in owning our voice, our agency, and our story? So I want to ask you, what are some things that you've done very successful African-American woman? You've navigated the military, ministry. You've been in school. You're a licensed counselor. So talk to us about some ways in which you've become more intentional in owning your voice.
Several ways. First of all, I think being aware. I even like the way Resmaa Menakem talks about being embodied awareness, something called embodied awareness. That's where I sense tightness in my body. Maybe my breath is going shallow. Maybe I'm
Mhm.
breathing a little shallow.
Mhm.
Maybe there's some discomfort. Maybe my heart rate is moving really rapid. So first of all, being self-aware. I think we always talk about being
Absolutely.
self-aware, but
Absolutely.
the way that I can learn is first to be aware of myself.
Mhm.
Aware of myself. That's been one area I think that's helped me. Therapy has helped me. So even the therapist needs a therapist. Okay.
Come on.
So one thing I love about the program that I went through is that it dealt with us first. You had to
Mhm.
deal with yourself first.
Mhm.
So before I can pour out, I first have to be filled, and I have to stay filled. So that's a constant thing.
Absolutely.
In order for my voice to be heard, I have to know what is the point when my voice stopped being safe enough to be spoken? When was that place? Where was that place of that pain point?
Mhm.
Where was the area where was the time? And we really got to deal with it.
Mhm. We got to.
We got to deal with it.
We do.
When did I stop speaking? When did I feel that it wasn't safe?
Wow.
So that maladaptive behavior we talked about last week,
Mhm.
about sometimes I shut down. So is it when it's a man's voice and it's loud?
Yeah.
Is it when a woman's
Yeah.
voice and it's loud? What is
Yeah.
it that's causing me to shrink up?
Wow.
When do I say, oh, I don't need to say nothing? We have to be honest and have that conversation.
Absolutely. Dr. Claudette Copeland had a sermon. It was so powerful. When silence is sin.
Oh, guys,
You know, the idea that our silence
yes,
serves no one.
Yeah.
That if we don't speak up,
yes,
particularly about issues of injustice in our community, in our world, even in our homes,
yes,
in our own families.
that's right.
Come on.
That's
Because
right.
you can be othered in your own home.
In your own home.
Are y'all going to talk to me in the chat?
And I used to talk a lot.
Yeah, you can be othered in contexts where you would think you would be accepted.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that we notice about Shipra and Pua is that these two women were very integral. They were very important, significant in society. Midwives were so significant, but yet they were dehumanized. The girls were counted out.
Yes.
The king said, let the girls live because they're not a threat to the status quo.
At all.
They were counted out, but they used their voices anyway. I want to share this to kind of give a bookend from my first 2 weeks with Dr. Smith. He said this, and I loved it. He said, the Bible, this is going back to understanding the Black presence in the Bible and the fact that Africans were in the Bible. The Bible is not a white man's book.
Yeah.
People have just used it to oppress and other Africans, to oppress Africans and people of color when Jesus taught love. We want to be very clear about that. Jesus taught love. One other note that Dr. Smith expressed, and I thought this was good, the biblical world predated any systemic notion of race and theories of racism. So it's our task to see where that's happening in the biblical text. Randall C. Bailey does a lot of good stuff with this. You can look him up. He's a biblicist who does some great work in Old Testament biblical hermeneutics. But the Bible really predates a lot of that theory. And so as interpreters and as responsible readers, we have to take what we now know about racism, what we now know about these systems, and look at biblical passages and see where we see these power dynamics emerging and happening. We have to apply that discipline, and that is African-American biblical hermeneutics, womanist biblical interpretation, which is a term that we expressed and brought up in our last conversation. So the next question that we had, and it's on your sheets, is how might critical race theory inform my efforts to raise awareness around African-American voices, stories, and contributions? And for me, particularly with my niece and with my nephews, what it does for me is it allows me to have language to help them understand that there are some forces at work in the world that will try to tell you who you are and who you are not. But the good news is that Jeremiah 1:5 is still true. And I tell my nephew and my nephews and niece this all the time. You have prenatal purpose.
Yes, come on.
Before God formed you in the womb, God had a purpose for you. What did we say? What's the song that they sang on the second Sunday? We're unapologetically beautiful and unashamedly Black. Black is beautiful.
Yes.
This was something that I really had to press home with my niece because she would see certain types of hair and it would make her think, that's why I love the Crown Act.
Yes.
It would make her think that her hair was not beautiful. And I said, no. There's nothing wrong with your hair.
Yes.
It does what you want it to do.
That's right.
It just does what you want it to do differently. And so I want to just offer that word of encouragement as we prepare to close out our time together. There are a couple of resources that I wanted to share with us because some of you have sent us messages asking for more information. Michael Brown has a book entitled Blackening of the Bible, The Aims of African American Biblical Scholarship. So if you want to go deeper, we couldn't get into it. We only had 4 weeks. We couldn't get into it in depth about African American biblical hermeneutics, womanist biblical interpretation. I know that's a lot. We couldn't get in depth, but we do have some resources that if you want to do more research, you can go to our fuel station on our website at www.hohatl.org and you can find these resources there. And then also our devotional materials. Gabby Cudjoe Wilkes and her husband, Andrew Wilkes, do an excellent job in Psalms for Black Lives. I think that'll be a great Lenten devotional if you're interested. And then Arthur Cole Riley, Black Liturgies, Prayers, Poems, and Meditations for Staying Human. That one will bless your whole life. Before we get out of here, Pastor Cross, I want you to share just some parting words. It's been a blessing to have you with me during this conversation. It's been a blessing just to talk about critical race theory, but also how God can heal us through the cultural trauma and generational trauma that we experience. So just kind of leave us with some parting words.
One thing I was thinking about is truth telling.
Yes.
Truth telling is also a part of our healing and reconciliation. And so when we talk about critical race theory, we must engage. It's just a form of truth telling. And so we're going to continue to do that. And in order to get to reconciliation, we have to tell the truth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to tell the truth. Ye shall know the truth.
Come on.
And the truth will do what?
Set you free.
It'll set us free.
Set you free.
Some of you who are watching right now, you've been listening to this conversation, and I know it was weighty. I know there was a lot that we spoke about, but there was one thing that we said that I hope you heard and that I hope resonated with you, and that is Jesus taught love. And as we transition into this next month of teaching, I don't know who's watching, who may be a part of a marginalized community like Pastor Cross and I, but I want you to know that Jesus Christ loves you unconditionally. There's nothing that you can do to separate yourself from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus. And so if you want to know more about a Christ who loves us unconditionally without limits, you can text Connect or Salvation to 678-201-1351. If you don't have a church home, if you want to be baptized, if you want to be saved, we want to connect with you. We're a wonderful church with a wonderful pastor. Dr. E. Dewey Smith Jr. is a teacher, a preacher, and a shepherd. And so if you want to connect with us, you can text Connect or Salvation to 678-201-1351. But then if you've been listening to this lesson and we've said something that touched you or encouraged you, that you have prenatal purpose from Jeremiah 1:5, we want to give you, or rather offer you an opportunity to give today. There are multiple ways that you can give, those ways in which you can sow into this ministry so that we can keep offering content like this. Those multiple ways are on your screen right now. And your gifts are so precious to us because they allow us to continue to do meaningful work in the world. Pastor Cross does a lot with community activism and community empowerment. And so we want to continue to do ministry that means something to our community and to our world. In addition, we want you to know that if you need prayer, you can text prayer to 678-201-1351. And a member of our prayer team will pray with you. And if you're a member of our family who is sick and shut in or bereaved, we want you to know that you're not alone, but that your church family, your community, we are lifting you in prayer daily. We're lifting you in prayer daily. With all that being said, in the words of our senior pastor, if you are good to God, God will be good to you. We love you, family, and we'll see you again for our Biblecast next week. Take care.
Hey fam, I am here. Crystal is here. And we're so glad that all of you are here as well.
That's right. And we came to give you all the information you need today. And before we do that, let me give you all our final Black History trivia question for the month.
The last one?
The last one. You know
Oh,
it's
the
a
month
short
already?
month.
I know.
It's a short
They don't
month.
do- they don't do it.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Who was the first pastor of the Greater Travelers Rest Baptist Church, which was formed in 1876 by a Sunday school and prayer meeting group?
That's a good one.
Think about it.
You
We'll
don't
be
have to
back
think
with
on
the
that
answer.
one.
Yes.
Now, Wellness Wednesday is back. We want you to come at 10 a.m. for physical wellness, then at 11 a.m. for our wellness education, and finally at 12 p.m. for our spiritual wellness, which is Bible study. Additionally, we're going to have an exciting new partner starting this Wednesday, February 28th. And let's get well together. You know, we do it better when we do it together. So meet us in the atrium, and for more information, just text the word wellness to 678-201-1351.
Join the HOHA in 40 days of fasting and praying which started on February 14th and will continue through March 28th. During this Lent period, as a congregation, we will seek the Lord in prayer, read scriptures, serve by giving alms, and practice self-control through fasting. For more information, just go to the church's website or our social media platforms. If you'd like to join Fasting Small Group, text FAST24 to 678-201-1351.
Oh, yes. In partnership with the American Red Cross, today after service is already going on, but we're actually having a blood drive that started this morning, but it will actually last until 1:30 p.m. today. Now, each pint of blood that we collect can help to save up to 3 lives and will touch the lives of so many more. And it's a great way to pay it forward and to make an impact on people in our community and across the country. You can support this blood drive in one of 3 ways. You can roll up your sleeve and donate. You can support those who donate by volunteering, or you can pledge to support our efforts by posting to your social networks about this great community initiative. So it's not much time left, so go ahead and post something now so people can come up here and donate some blood. To volunteer at this point, hopefully if they still need some volunteers, but maybe they don't. But if you want to don't worry about it. If you need more information just in general on blood drives with the American Red Cross, you can register on the website or through the QR code on the screen.
Yes. Join us for the 20th anniversary celebration for our pastor, Dr. E. Dewey Smith Jr., on Friday, March 15th at 7 o'clock p.m. at the House of Hope Atlanta in the Theaterplex. This will be a time of celebration, nostalgia, fun, and it's going to feature music, comedy, and good food, and so much more. All of this for $65, and this is only for people 18 years of age and up.
The grown folks.
Yes, the grown folks. Included in the price is entertainment, food, fellowship, and just good vibes. And we are going to celebrate our pastor for his 20 years of extraordinary service here at the House of Hope. Join us as we show our pastor just how much we love and appreciate him. So visit the church's website, or you can text the word anniversary to 678-201-1351 for more information.
And also, as a part of the celebration, to celebrate for our pastor, all members are encouraged to wear their 20th anniversary t-shirt on Sunday, March 17th. You can purchase that t-shirt today, right now, at the church in the lobby.
And if you're interested in taking out an ad for your small business, or if you just like to send Pastor a personal message for the souvenir booklet, just reach out to smitchell@gtrbc.org for more information. The winter session for Life University starts on March 17th. So join a Life University small group by texting the letters LIFEU to 678-201-1351. Now, if you're looking for a way to connect, learn, encounter God, ask questions, and nurture your spiritual growth while in community with others, then Life University is the place for you. There are a variety of class times, dates, and small groups.
Oh, yes. And for our online virtual viewers, we want to keep you connected. So if you need prayer, text the word prayer. If you would like to become a member of the House of Hope Atlanta, text the word connect. And if you would like to be saved, just text the word salvation to 678-201-1351.
Absolutely. Now, we want to give you more time to sign up and stay connected with us in 2024. Now, our pastor, Dr. E. Dewey Smith Jr., and Pastor Jen, our global pastor, will share new content with our global family and virtual church. To receive real-time ministry updates, devotional content, and ministry opportunities, all you have to do is scan the QR code on the screen. And as always, we definitely want you to know that we appreciate your engagement and your generosity.
We sure do, and that is our time for today, Crystal. But until next time, we want you to remember that life with God is better in every way, every day. Be blessed. All right, Crystal, this was the last question,
Yes.
for the Black History Month. And it was, who was the first pastor of the Greater Travelers Rest Baptist Church, which is the House of Hope Atlanta? You got an answer?
I do.
Oh, she got
Thank
an answer
you very much.
this week. Who is it?
Reverend Sam Stinson.
Excuse me. Did y'all know that? It's crickets. I don't hear nothing about it. But okay, Crystal, you
Yeah.
do. All right, you had a couple. What? That was two. Well, you technically didn't know that last one.
I did.
No.
I just pronounced her name wrong.
So I'm gonna tell
But
y'all
she's
what
on
really
that, like-
happened. I told her the answer. She didn't know.
He looked it up.
Let me tell you what she said. Because last week the answer was Shirley Chisholm, right? First black person that ran for
Didn't
president,
nobody
right?
ask you all this?
You know what she
You so
said?
messy.
She said Sojourner Truth. Crystal,
You messy and I can't
that's
stand
why
you.
they need to make sure that Black history is incorporated in school.
I don't
It
like
should be
it.
mandatory. But I want y'all to keep learning your Black history. I know
Yes,
it's
for sure.
February is about to be over, but keep on learning it. So you're not, Sojourner Truth. Y'all
You know what I was trying to say?
go to church because they ain't even trying to explain it. I'm ashamed. Shirley is ashamed.
Bye, you guys. I love you.